Hey, what is going on, everybody? Welcome to Good to Go. This is our inaugural episode, and I'm very excited for it. I'm Noah Kravitz from Techno Buffalo here in Oakland, California.
Hi, and I'm James Kendrick with ZDNet Mobile News here in Houston, Texas.
Now, I gotta say, since it's our first episode, James, I'm just gonna say straight off the bat, been a fan of yours for a long time. I can hear the audience crying foul already. New fanboy allegations for me, but I'll take them. That's okay. But I've been a fan of yours for a long time before we got to know each other a little. So I'm thrilled to be doing this. I'm just psyched to get a chance to talk with you on a regular basis.
Well, I'm the same way. I've been following your stuff forever, and I was excited recently when we finally met, and
We did. So I guess we owe HP a debt of gratitude for pulling us together, because I think that's where we met in person at their event.
nah, I've gotten them probably more sales than anybody.
There
That's
you
all
go.
they want. It's the money.
So speaking of that event, and to get past the niceties here and get on to it, I think we're talking tablets this week. How could we not with the big news out of San Francisco? Was that just yesterday? It feels like weeks ago already.
Well, that's because Apple's probably gathered another 10% market share since yesterday.
I think John from our site was actually on TV, and they this morning, and instead of talking about the gadgets, they roped him into talking about stock prices. So I will stay away from that one. But I wish I'd bought the stock long ago. Anyway, iPad 2. What do you think? What do you make of the news?
Well, I think it's exactly what I expected. It needed to be a good improvement, but not revolutionary in any way. But the important thing, I think, was keep the price the same.
Hmm.
So you increase the value. They've already set an aggressive price bar with the original iPad, and the competitors have got to just be shaking today. What are we going to do?
Yeah, I would agree with you. It's an interesting thing. I find that the people who are sort of the vocal followers of sites like ours, and I would imagine, your blog as well, the tech enthusiasts, we talk a lot about specs, and we look at spec sheets, and, you can point to, well, Apple isn't talking about how much RAM's in the thing.
Dual core.
Right, exactly, right? Quad core's already been announced, and but when you look at the sales figures and the profit margins and the people buying these things and the way that they market the products, I found really telling yesterday was the emphasis that Jobs put on talking about how we just don't understand how the competitors are approaching this. And for us, it's got to be simpler than a PC. And they talked a lot about the applications. And I'm a big video guy, so I'm psyched to try iMovie. I don't know if it'll be any good. I've got a Zoom, and Zoom came preloaded with a video editing application. Here we go. Let's pull out the guns. Right? Have you tried that at all? The movie studio on Zoom?
No, I've opened it, but I don't
Right.
have any movies on it, so
Yeah.
no, I haven't tried it yet.
Yeah, it's fine. I mean, I'm psyched that there's a video editing app that came preloaded, because I've been wanting, there's some you can mess around with on iOS and stuff, but it's fine. But then you see, we could have done this call. We could have just done a G Talk video call on the
Oh,
on the
that's right. I
devices.
forgot about G Talk on this
Yeah,
thing.
yeah, we could do that for next time. And that's because they don't market it. That's the other thing. Kind of getting back to the way that Apple and Jobs yesterday and Apple's advertising agency certainly position this stuff and talk about it. They're talking about apps and experiences and the way people use the thing, and not dual cores and spec sheets and all that stuff the way that guys like us and the people who read and talk about us do. And I don't know, what do you see from the competition that's out there? You said they're shaking in their boots. Do you see anybody who's maybe shaking a little bit less than the others?
Well, I think personally the company that's excited me most from what I've seen personally is HP with the TouchPad WebOS. I think it's radically different from everything else out there with Android and all the stuff, and it looked. I mean, I spent a couple hours, as did you, I know, out in the HP at WebOS event,
Right.
and I was really impressed. I mean, it looked ready to me.
Yeah. Yeah.
It looked ready. It looked like you could pick it up and really use it. And that's what we say about the iPad. That's the
Right.
advantage they always have over there. You can pick it up and just do stuff.
Right. Right. That's the thing. This slew of Android 3.0 devices coming out. I did a little bit of we were talking before we hit the record button. I did a little bit of I knew what I was doing yesterday. I made some comments on Twitter because I wanted to see what the Android army would come back at me with, you know. And that's the thing to me about Android. I actually like 3.0. I like the zoom more than I thought I would. But right out of the box, how much can you do with it? And that's sort of the, you know, it's a double-edged thing because I think that people who like Android would say, well, you can customize it so much, you can do anything you want with it. There are no boundaries. And, you know, the flip side saying, you know, well, Apple just sort of ropes you into exactly the experience they want you to have, and that's not what I want. And, you know, it's an interesting thing, two ways of doing business, but that I think is part of what's made iPad so successful. And I agree with you on the touchpad. I was also really impressed. I thought WebOS kind of felt like it was meant to be on a bigger screen almost, or, you know, at least it seems to work really well. The developer part of that event was lacking a little bit, though. No disrespect to the 14-year-old kid who made the game, but that's not really, I think, what people were hoping to see.
Yeah, I think you're right, but it always comes down to the apps, and again, that's another reason why Apple with the iPad is in such a strong position. I mean, and like you were just saying, I actually look at it a little bit differently. I think what makes Apple's marketing so brilliant, quite frankly, no matter what you think of Apple, I mean, I don't think that, like with the iPad, that they're dictating how you have to use it. I think they're masters at identifying how all of the millions of regular people in the street, not you and me, techie guy who want to, you know, I want to mod, I want to do a custom ROM on my tablet, which I've done. You know, we don't buy enough to make any money.
Right.
They want the billions of dollars they can get from the people on the street, and so they identify how they're going to use it.
Yeah,
and that's the experience they perfect.
I
call it the 90-10 rule, quite frankly.
Right. Explain what that means for people who might not know.
Well, I mean, in my experience, 90% of the people, well, most all of mainstream consumers, not tech enthusiasts, they spend 90% of their time using a given device, and they only use 10% of the functionality of it.
Right. Like my brain, somebody once told me.
Yeah, mine too.
Yeah,
but and that's what Apple does so well. They identify that 10% that people are going to spend all their time doing, and they make it bulletproof.
Right.
Simple, intuitive, drop dead easy.
You know what always boggles my mind? You remember? I mean, it's not that long ago. Remember the Evo 4G Android phone, HTC on Sprint? And that phone came out. I say remember, he's going to pull the device out. There you go. Great device.
Yeah.
Right? One of the first, first 4G, so-called 4G phone in America. Front-facing camera, video chat before FaceTime existed.
Yeah.
Right? I can't remember an ad, a TV spot for that phone that showed video calling happening. I might be wrong here. I probably am wrong, but that's not what I remember from they got to it eventually, but the first series of ads, I remember kind of an animated thing with what looked like dominoes falling in the background.
Yeah.
Talking about first is this, first is that, first is whatever. iPhone 4 comes along, and you see an ad immediately. FaceTime, right? And it's like, you know, grandfather talking to grandkids and people far away. And just that, exactly what you're just saying. This is how 90% of the people, you know, are going to use this. And it's always boggled my mind that other companies don't necessarily go for that with their advertising of these, especially as things like smartphones and now tablets are going so mainstream.
They market the stuff to people like you and I. And like I said, we don't have the big butt. We don't have the numbers.
Yeah, right.
They need to market it to my Aunt Sally, you know, who's not even sure she wants a tablet.
Yeah, right.
But she can sure tell you what an iPad is.
Right.
You know, and that's the whole thing. It's awareness.
Yeah. Real quick, because we don't want to, we're hitting we set a time limit, but before we started this off, we were joking. you get two geeks in a room and let them talk, and suddenly it's next Tuesday. So
Yeah.
what do you think about we touched real briefly on HP, BlackBerry, and this is sort of a longer, more reading tea leaves thing, but Microsoft and the tablet markets. We know, we've seen Playbook, have an idea of when it might be coming out, some rumors that it might run Android apps, that kind of thing, but not anything concrete from Microsoft or the Windows Phone Nokia partnership. What are your thoughts on either of those?
Well, I think the Playbook will probably do well in the enterprise, and I think that's where they're aiming it, and not to the consumer. And I think that's probably smart. I don't see consumers flocking to the Playbook, but I mean, you never can tell.
Right.
Microsoft, as far as the Windows, whether it's ARM-based Windows tablets or whatever, they're in an odd situation. They don't make hardware. I mean, all they're going to do is put something out there and hope companies grab it up, and they're going to be so far behind. I don't know if they're going to get a lot of people to jump.
Yeah. I have a little bit of that concern for the WebOS stuff, but they have more of especially now with the muscle of HP behind them. They have that top to bottom hardware, software, marketing all in one spot thing happening, and then HP's huge distribution reach that Palm didn't have that during the kind of their first resurrection. So their second resurrection this time around, I think they're better positioned. So, but I agree with you. I think Windows Phone 7 is a separate conversation. There are a lot of things I really like about it. And GDC, the Game Developers Conference, is going on in San Francisco this week. I was there briefly the other day. I'm going to head back tomorrow. And they have an area set up with all the Windows Phone devices out and some evangelists talking to developers and that kind of thing. But similar feeling, I don't know if it's too late for them to really get back into mobile.
You just don't know. But you mentioned the GDC. Do you know that at some of you had to be at the right sessions? They were giving Zooms to every attendee.
I heard about that. Yep.
That's the kind of stuff these guys need to do. I mean, get people on board and try to, because apps is everything, and I know that's got to be your response, your experience with the Zoom too. There's just a lot of things I go to do that I just can't. I go, I wish there was an app for that.
Right. And that makes me, I have a Barnes & Noble Nook Color on loan from those guys. Mm-hmm. And relative to what it is, and I tend to get all excited about, it's a $42 computer. I don't care if it crashes every 10 minutes. It's $40. But the Nook Color, I think, is actually pretty interesting. For $200, especially if you read a lot, and it's got the store built right in there. It's so easy to just, spend money on magazines as well, not just the books. But then it's got it's Android based, so it's got a decent web browser. I keep wanting to pinch and zoom on it. I can't do it. And supposedly an app store coming soon. And I really like that size, that 7-inch size. I think is pretty cool.
And you rooted it, I know, I'm sure, and you probably reading Kindle books on it. I'm sure they love that.
You give me more credit than I deserve. I didn't even have to root it. Somebody had compiled a honeycomb port that you can boot right off of the micro SD. So,
that's even easier.
Which is even easier because that way, when you're done messing around with it, turn it off, pop the SD card out.
You're done.
Turn it back on, and you're right back to reading, whatever it is you're reading on the Nook OS. So.
And let's face it, this is the kind of stuff that we like about Android because you can do all the stuff.
Right. It's true. But all right. Well, we should wrap it up to stick to that. I think we're a couple minutes over our early limit, but first show.
Surprise.
If people want more of you, James, where can they find it?
I'm at ZDNet, the mobile news blog at zdnet.com/blog/mobile-news. Nice and short.
What do you think? You want to do this again next Thursday?
Sure.
All right. I'm not sure what's going on next week. I don't know. I'm gonna ignorance is bliss because
Yeah, never look at a calendar on any of your devices because you'll be sick.
Yeah, exactly. All right, till next time. It was a pleasure.
All right.
Looking forward to it. Folks who are watching this out there, definitely hit us up in the comments. If you're watching this on a video channel or Techno Buffalo, wherever you are, you can find us on Twitter. And if you have suggestions, things you'd like us to talk about, questions, drop them in the mailbag. We'll see what we can do.
Shoot them to us.
All
Nice
right.
talking to you, Noah.
You too, James. We'll see you next week.
See ya.